Welcome to the realm of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Enjoy listening. The station's doors were closing one by one. Once the busiest hub for extraterrestrial beings visiting Earth, it was now living out its final moments. A massive explosion had recently torn through the station, claiming countless alien lives. The culprit behind the tragedy was none other than the Space Research Council. The alien station there had long been viewed as a potential threat, creating tension and concern among council members. Their ultimate solution to the problem was as brutal as it was effective. They destroyed the station. The aftermath was harrowing. A deathly silence enveloped the station. The lifeless bodies of aliens lay scattered across the ground, interspersed with shards of broken glass that occasionally crackled under the weight of the station's failing structure. Determined to ensure the problem had been resolved, the Space Research Council convened to send an operative to investigate the site. In a cold, sterile meeting room, volunteers were called for the dangerous task. One figure stood out in the room, Samuel Brown. With calm and calculated confidence, Samuel offered to take on mission. The council, eager to avoid delays and with no other volunteers stepping forward, quickly granted him full authority to handle the operation. Samuel's objective was simple yet critical: to recover anything of value that remained on the station, data, technology, or resources that might serve the council's interests. Resolute and unflinching, Samuel prepared himself. He boarded a transport capsule and set off toward the silent void where the station floated. As his capsule approached the station's once grand entrance, Samuel's heart clenched with an inexplicable unease. The airlock doors opened with a groan, releasing a metallic tang into the air. A haunting stillness greeted him. The corridors, once bustling with alien life, now stretched out before him like a dark, endless labyrinth. The hollow advertisement panels that had once lit the station with vibrant colors were now darkened, their surfaces marred by eerie, glowing symbols. Loose cables dangled from the ceiling, swaying gently and producing faint rustling sounds with every movement. The floor was littered with dried bloodstains and overturned furniture. With every step Samuel took, the crunch of broken glass underfoot echoed through the hollow corridors. He eventually reached a large hall and realized it was the central control area. At its peak, this room must have been the heart of the station's activities. Now it was a wasteland. Cracked screens lined the walls, and control panels lay in disarray. Amid the destruction, Samuel's eyes were drawn to a massive alien figure lying on the ground. Its lifeless form seemed to be watching him, as though even in death it bore witness to his presence. As Samuel's gaze lingered, a sudden spark from a nearby panel startled him. He turned sharply, his flashlight cutting through the dimness, and saw a shadow shift. What appeared next stole his breath. Standing before him was a tall figure with pale lavender skin, shimmering platinum hair, and a flowing beige dress. The being was impossibly beautiful, yet eerily still. Samuel cautiously approached, realizing it wasn't moving, not even blinking. His first thought was that it might be some kind of high-tech alien statue. Yet, the intricate details of its design suggested it was far more than mere decoration. Convinced it could be of value to the council, Samuel decided to take it with him. As he explored further, nothing else caught his attention. He kept returning in his mind to the mysterious figure. Carefully, he hoisted it over his shoulder, carried it to his capsule, and began his return journey. During the flight back, his phone buzzed incessantly with calls from the council. Samuel ignored every one of them. Whatever this statue was, he wanted to unravel its secrets himself before handing it over. Breaking protocol, he redirected his route and headed home. Once inside, Samuel placed the figure on the floor, studying it with a mix of fascination and apprehension. It seemed lifeless, but the craftsmanship was extraordinary, too perfect to be a mere ornament. Sitting across from it, he murmured to himself, "Is this real? Or is it just some kind of advanced alien artwork?" Leaning closer, Samuel noticed something strange. The figure's eyes, which he had thought to be glass or gemstone, seemed to hold a faint glow. Not like artificial light, but as though something alive was stirring within. A shiver ran down his spine. Determined to investigate further, Samuel retrieved tools and a flashlight. Kneeling beside the figure, he gently placed a hand on its arm. At that moment, the cold surface beneath his fingers grew warm. He recoiled in shock. This is impossible," he whispered. Before he could process what was happening, the figure's eyes slowly opened, revealing luminous depths. Its head tilted, and its platinum hair seemed to shimmer as though moved by an invisible breeze. A soft, melodic voice, barely above a whisper, asked, "Why did you wake me?" Samuel froze, his mind racing. I didn't mean any harm," he stammered. What are you?" The figure blinked slowly, her gaze fixed on him. "My name is Ella," she said, her voice carrying both sorrow and strength. "I survived the explosion. Barely. When the chaos ended, I hid. I knew the council wouldn't spare me. To survive, I pretended to be a statue. I stayed motionless for days, hoping they'd leave me alone." Ella's voice wavered as she continued. "I had nothing else. No hope. No future. Just the will to live." Samuel listened, captivated not only by her words but by the haunting beauty of her voice and presence. For the first time in his career, he felt the weight of the council's actions, the destruction, the lives lost, and the survivors left to suffer. His phone buzzed again, but he ignored it. "I can't take you back," Samuel said suddenly. "They'll kill you. But I can take you somewhere else. Somewhere they'll never find you." Ella's eyes widened in surprise, then softened with gratitude. "Why would you do that? Risk everything for me?" Samuel's voice was steady. "Because it's the right thing to do." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The quiet coastal town became their sanctuary, a place untouched by the chaos and cruelty that had marked both their pasts. Samuel found work as a mechanic in a small garage, his skills with machines proving invaluable. Ella, though cautious, began to explore the world she had hidden from for so long. At first, Ella's presence in the town drew curious glances. Her lavender skin and ethereal beauty were impossible to ignore, but Samuel explained her appearance as a rare genetic condition. The townsfolk, though puzzled, were kind-hearted and gradually accepted her as one of their own. Ella, in turn, found solace in the simplicity of human life. She would spend hours by the shore, watching the waves crash against the rocks, finding a sense of peace in their rhythmic dance. Despite the tranquility, Samuel couldn't shake the feeling that their past might catch up to them. The council was ruthless, and their reach vast. He took every precaution, ensuring their identities remained concealed. But the thought of losing Ella, a life he had come to cherish, kept him vigilant. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Samuel returned home to find Ella staring out the window, her expression distant. "What's on your mind?" he asked, setting his tools down and moving to her side. Ella turned to him, her luminous eyes reflecting the fading light. "Do you think they'll ever stop looking for me?" Samuel hesitated, but finally shook his head. "No, they won't. But they won't find us either. I'll make sure of that." Ella smiled faintly, though a hint of sadness lingered in her gaze. "Sometimes I wonder if I made the right choice. Staying hidden, pretending to be something I'm not. What if I could have made a difference by fighting back?" Samuel placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch firm yet gentle. "Ella, you survived. That's more than most could have done. And maybe, just maybe, your survival is its own form of resistance." His words seemed to comfort her, but the question lingered in the air like a shadow they couldn't quite escape. One fateful night, their fragile peace was shattered. Samuel woke to a faint humming sound, a vibration that seemed to pulse through the walls. His heart raced as he leaped out of bed, grabbing a flashlight and heading for the window. In the distance, a small drone hovered, its red light blinking ominously against the night sky. "They've found us," Samuel muttered under his breath. Ella appeared in the doorway, her expression calm, but her eyes betraying a flicker of fear. "What do we do?" Samuel didn't hesitate. "We leave. Now." Years of preparation paid off as they enacted their escape plan. Samuel retrieved a hidden bag filled with essentials, cash, fake passports, and a map with multiple routes marked for emergencies. Together, they slipped out the back door and into the dense woods surrounding the town. As they moved silently through the trees, the drone's hum grew louder, joined by the unmistakable roar of approaching vehicles. Samuel led Ella to a hidden path he had scouted months before, his mind racing with contingency plans. "We can't outrun them forever," Ella said, her voice steady despite the tension. "They'll keep coming, then we'll make them stop," Samuel replied, his tone resolute. By dawn, they reached an abandoned observatory on a hill overlooking the ocean. Samuel worked quickly, using the equipment he had stashed there to jam the council's tracking signals. Ella watched him, her mind a whirlwind of emotions. "Samuel," she began, "I don't want to run anymore." He stopped, turning to face her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that we can't keep hiding. If they're this determined to find me, there's a reason. Maybe it's time we face them. Together." Samuel's jaw tightened. The thought of putting Ella in harm's way was unbearable, but he knew she was right. Their lives had been a series of temporary refuges, always looking over their shoulders. Perhaps the time had come to fight for something more permanent. With a deep breath, he nodded. "Okay, but we do this on our terms." In the days that followed, they prepared for what could be their final stand. Samuel used his knowledge of the council's technology to create a network of traps and decoys around the observatory. Ella, tapping into the innate abilities of her species, honed her mental and physical strength. Her glowing eyes and graceful movements became sharper, more precise as she prepared for the inevitable confrontation. When the council's forces arrived, they found themselves ensnared in a web of confusion. Drones malfunctioned, vehicles became immobilized, and communication signals were scrambled. Samuel and Ella worked in perfect harmony, their bond unbreakable as they outmaneuvered their pursuers. In the end, it was Ella who faced the council's lead operative, a cold, calculating woman named Dr. Linton. The doctor had been the architect of the station's destruction, and her presence reignited the fire in Ella's heart. "You destroyed my home," Ella said, her voice echoing with quiet fury. "You took everything from me?" Dr. Linton smirked, unfazed. "And yet, here you are, a survivor. Perhaps we underestimated you." "That was your first mistake," Ella replied, her luminous eyes narrowing. With a surge of power, Ella unleashed a force that sent Dr. Linton and her team retreating. It wasn't just strength, it was a message. Ella was no longer a victim, no longer a fugitive. She was a force to be reckoned with. When the dust settled, Samuel and Ella stood together, overlooking the wreckage of the council's attempt to capture them. For the first time in years, they felt a sense of triumph, a glimmer of hope. "We did it," Samuel said, his voice tinged with awe. Ella turned to him, a faint smile playing on her lips. "No, Samuel, we survived, and now we live." From that day forward, they vowed to stop running, not just from the council, but from the fear that had haunted them. Together, they forged a new life, one rooted in strength, resilience, and the unshakable bond they had built. Though the shadows of the past would never fully fade, they had found something far greater, a future worth fighting for.